Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're looking at the ultimate power fantasy breakdown. If you're a focused learner who loves dissecting how rigid, perfectly coded systems get completely dismantled by raw, unadulterated skill, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to map out the spectacular, logic-defined rise of a player known only as Nameless. We'll chronologically break down his journey, his jaw-dropping battles, and the sheer absolute panic he caused among the game's developers. It's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, let's dive into this. The central premise here is just utterly fascinating. Our protagonist, Jin Sojun, loved this hyper-immersive VR world, but he had a fatal flaw. His physical sync rate in the virtual world was so far below average that he actually collapsed inside the capsule and had to quit entirely. But when a new generation of capsules drops, he gets a second chance. So the massive question staring us right in the face is this: how does someone with literally the worst biological compatibility for VR gaming manage to completely shatter an expertly coded universe in mere days? Well, to understand that, we have to look at what the game code couldn't possibly account for.
And here is his secret weapon. Jin Sojun isn't just some failed VR gamer trying to make a desperate comeback. No, he is the reincarnated sword god. In a past life, he started as a lowly slave and, through unimaginable hardship and grueling training, ascended to become the absolute strongest swordmaster in the martial world. So, when he steps into this VR game, he isn't playing by the typical rules of hitboxes and frame data. Imagine bringing a literal lifetime of life-or-death muscle memory into a game governed by simple code. He brings the ingrained combat intuition and the ultra-refined instincts of a literal martial arts deity.
Now, this timeline perfectly captures his terrifyingly rapid ascent on his very first day back. He borrows a capsule, logs in, and heads straight to the training ground. Within 5 minutes, he easily slices apart the level 9 AI. But the real shocker? That happens at minute 15. He challenges level 10, an AI explicitly modeled after Shin Huion, a once-in-a-century gaming prodigy who won the world championship 3 years in a row. Jin Sojun doesn't just beat her AI clone, he completely toys with it. In a move of absolute swagger, he deliberately lets the ultimate AI hit him just to test the game's pain settings. Then he literally throws his sword away, shatters the robot's blade barehanded, and executes a flawless finishing strike. He bypassed the game's absolute skill ceiling before even starting his first official broadcast.
Next, he enters his first game as a streamer, an assassination game called Assassin's Squad Dawn of Shadowfall, using the moniker Nameless. And just look at this contrast. The game is specifically designed for stealth. Normal players creep through shadows, read scattered notes, and follow predetermined routes to avoid alerting the overwhelmingly strong NPC guards. Jin Sojun? Yeah, he completely ignores the genre. While everyone else is basically playing Assassin's Creed, Jin Sojun is out here playing Doom. He opts for the legendary, highly discouraged Berserk Clear, basically warrior style. He literally just walks right through the heavily guarded front gate of Count Atori's manor and starts fighting everyone head-on.
Because he decides to fight head-on, he triggers a massive swarm of elite guards. And this brings us to a crucial mechanic, the perfect guard. This requires exact timing to predict an enemy attack, adjust your body movement, and counter in a split second. It's widely considered completely impossible for beginners and incredibly difficult even for seasoned veterans. The margin for error is razor thin. One mistake, and you are done. But remember who we're dealing with. For our reincarnated sword god, reading basic physical movements is like child's play.
Which leads to this staggering number right here, 13. When the tutorial boss Atori shows up, Jin Sojun doesn't run away. He stands his ground and pulls off an explosive, logic-defying 13-hit perfect guard combo against an immortal boss. To the handful of viewers in his chat, especially his roommate, who is a hardcore, seasoned veteran of the game watching this happen live, this was pure, awe-inspiring disbelief. It was literally like watching a miracle. It defied all common sense. He blocked a relentless flurry of attacks without taking a single point of damage, eventually wearing the boss down and forcing a stage-clearing self-destruct sequence.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ripple effect of sheer, undeniable skill.
At hour 2, he was streaming to exactly 4 people. By hour 12, the viral hype absolutely explodes. A fan-edited video of his 13-hit perfect guard combo rockets to the front page of the platform, sparking massive debates about whether he's a once-in-a-generation genius or just a hacker. But then, the tone shifts to pure, unadulterated developer panic. By hour 24, the game developers actually go in and secretly replace the gentle, courteous level 10 training AI with a new, utterly ruthless AI modeled directly on Nameless's arrogant, hyper-aggressive combat style. His in-game actions were actively rewriting the game's core data.
But honestly, he was just getting started. Let's look at his next target, the Dismantler's gang boss, Drake. Normal players, even those with millions of followers, spend an absolute fortune buying secret maps to avoid Drake's deadly gang members, trying to quietly assassinate him. Jin Sojin takes a completely different route. He purposely gets captured just to find the hideout. Then, he actually complains that the assassin's dagger is too short. So what does he do? He rips a massive 5-meter steel pipe straight out of the environment and proceeds to completely flatten the enemy base using pure brute force. It's a hilarious, cinematic rejection of the game's intended stealth mechanics.
When he finally reaches boss Drake, the villain is furious. Drake unleashes a storm of flying blades, but Jin Sojin casually deflects every single one with his massive metal pipe. Drake utters this classic villain line, "If you won't come forward, then I'll attack first," unleashing his ultimate twin blades connected by chains. It's a flashy, totally unpredictable weapon. But Jin Sojin, relying on decades of past life-or-death combat experience, simply steps right into the attack. He doesn't retreat at all. He channels his strength from the ground up and delivers one clean, devastating slash to Drake's head. Boss defeated.
Defeating Drake using the impossible warrior style sends massive shockwaves through the community. A top streamer with 1 million followers, Alpaca, had publicly declared he would become the disciple of anyone who could beat Drake this way. So naturally, they do a collaboration stream. And when Jin Sojin logs in, the viewer count spikes to an incredible 20,000 live viewers. If you've ever watched a small streamer blow up overnight, this is that exact moment, but on steroids. Suddenly, Nameless isn't an obscure rookie anymore. He's performing on the main stage, and everyone is waiting to see if his skills are actually the real deal.
During this highly watched stream, the challenge shifts to unlocking a legendary skill called Weak Point Detection. This is an endgame mechanic, guys. It is designed to take players several months of grinding to unlock by finding 10 ultra-rare, mathematically specific structural flaws in enemy weapons. The developers assumed this mechanic was safely locked away from early-game players, just a distant goal to keep them logging in for months.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is where Jin Sojin completely bypasses the digital grind. The developers intended for players to slowly hunt for these flaws over months of tedious side quests. But Jin Sojin realizes that in his past life, martial arts masters possessed the innate wisdom eye, the ability to sense the weak points in all things through extreme refinement of skill. So he literally closes his eyes in the game, senses the structural weaknesses of the NPC's shields through pure intuition, and shatters 10 of them back-to-back in a matter of minutes. He unlocks the endgame skill instantly. No way the devs saw that coming.
And this act triggers absolute chaos in the real world. Over at the game's corporate headquarters, CEO Yves Pinot is having a complete meltdown. By defeating rulers like Drake and unlocking these skills, Jin Sojin is acquiring order fragments, hidden endgame items meant to trigger massive future expansions. You can just hear the sheer exasperation as the CEO yells, "The order fragments were supposed to be hidden items. Our flawlessly calculated plan is completely ruined." A multi-month narrative sequence totally destroyed by a guy who started playing 3 days ago.
Just look at this timeline of developer panic. The original promotional rollout for the order fragments was set for a whole month. When Nameless starts his rampage, they compress it to an emergency 1-week schedule, forcing the entire team into brutal crunch time just to try and outrun him. But by day 1 of this new plan, the lead programmer runs the numbers and tells the CEO a terrifying truth. There is a 100% mathematical probability that they will fail to stop him. Human intuition is completely overriding coded logic. Jin Sojin is progressing faster than they can even write the game's code.
Let's move to the Aether Spire and see how this builds to the ultimate climax. Jin Sojin takes a massive bounty mission to climb a brutal tower of magic. Each floor applies a devastating debuff. Floor 4 hits him with full-body paralysis, which he pushes right through. Floor 5 instantly reverses his left and right controls, a literal nightmare for a precision swordsman, but he adapts instantly. Floor 6 layers on extreme movement slowdown, and finally, Floor 7 completely strips away his vision, dropping him into pitch blackness.
Blinded and facing a powerful mage launching rapid-fire spells, the chat immediately assumes he's done for. But Jin So-jun remains perfectly calm. Relying purely on the sound of the incoming spells and his flawless memory of the room's layout, he delivers this iconic line with total, icy confidence. Assassins are meant to move in the shadows. To others, this is a deadly trap, but to me, it's the perfect battlefield. It's just a massive flex. He charges right through the barrage of magic, tracks the mage purely by sound, and eliminates her in the dark.
This incredible feat clears the way to floor 8, where the ultimate boss, Duke, waits. The live viewer chat goes completely wild, betting heavily against Jin So-jun. The wagers quickly push the mission reward up to a staggering $1.4 million. Everyone wants to see if the seemingly invincible Nameless will finally taste defeat against a boss no one has ever come close to beating. So let's get straight into this final confrontation.
Now, Duke's second phase seems genuinely impossible. He surrounds himself with an impenetrable protective barrier while raining down lightning at extreme speeds. The player community's best theory? Use rare bombs to slowly, painstakingly chip away at the shield. Jin So-jun doesn't have bombs. Instead, he observes the magic. Think of it like a cracked glass window. If you look closely enough, all the fracture lines meet at one weak point. He finds the exact pixel where the magical arcs converge and strikes that precise center point. He physically cuts through invisible magic, shattering Duke's unbreakable spell purely through observational genius. So, the crucial point here is the final trap. Duke, enraged and desperate, unleashes massive lightning and teleports directly behind Jin So-jun for a lethal sneak attack, taunting him about his shallow experience. But Duke never realized that Jin So-jun wasn't dodging. He was predicting. Jin So-jun had already anticipated the exact spatial coordinates of the teleportation spawn point and casually left his blade waiting right there. Duke literally teleports himself into a fatal instant kill. It is poetic, ironic perfection.
With Duke defeated, Jin So-jun claims the third order fragment. As we wrap up this explainer, the CEO of the game is so absolutely desperate that he is actively trying to hunt down Jin So-jun's real-world contact info just to beg him to stop playing. This leaves us with a truly provocative question. When a player transcends the code to become a literal god within the game, and the creators themselves are entirely at his mercy, what universe is left for him to break? The journey of Nameless is far from over, and I highly encourage you to explore the source material to see what rigid system he completely shatters next. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer.